Hey, what's up, guys? Chris here, and today we are going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns game from this past Sunday, Week 2 analysis here for you guys. And wow, what a game! In terms of the Browns finding a way to really let this one slip. They came out and had a hell of a first half, completely shutting out Baltimore. They limited them to 12 points. Cleveland in the first quarter put up 20. It was crazy. And for the rest of the game, Cleveland did absolutely nothing. Josh McCown went out with an injury. I'm going to try and pull this up. I completely forget what quarter it was. Let me see if I can find this real quick. It was... because he was back in. He was back in the second half of the game, so I think he went out in the second quarter. I want to say I'm just trying to find out what play it was. I can't find can't find it out right now. I think was it going into halftime he was hurt? But I mean overall Cleveland, I mean that first quarter they were on fire, even in the second quarter. I mean they came out, their opening drive went 75 yards for the touchdown. I mean they were lighting it up. McCown had a nice pass to Johnson for 28 yards. He found Corey Coleman later, and I think it's Corey Coleman who's got a hand injury right now, so even a little more devastating for the Browns. Let me see. Yeah, broken hand during practice on Wednesday, so that's a little more devastating for Cleveland because he had a hell of a game. But I mean, Baltimore struggling on offense, defensively. They weren't able to get any pressure to Cleveland in that first quarter and a little bit of the first half. But then after that, I mean, Cleveland started to fall apart. I mean, there was a missed field goal. I mean, it would have been a huge opportunity for them to get a few more points on the board. Could have changed up the aspect. I mean, late in the game, they even had a chance to win. I mean, they were driving. They had time with 20 seconds to go. Josh McCown, deep pass on a 1st and 10. It was intercepted. I mean, he threw it right to the defender. It looked like he wasn't even trying with that throw. I don't know what he was reading. I don't know what. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. Cleveland did have a chance. But, I mean... a lot of people would say it's that Cleveland stigma, they find a way to lose. But, I mean, there were a lot of missed opportunities throughout this game. Joe Flacco, 25 for 45, struggled throughout that whole first half. Was able to come away with 302 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Josh McCown, 20 for 33, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 3 times. That late second half, late second quarter, rest of the second half was struggling a bit. Baltimore rushing 11 for 42. Terrence West. The team only combined for 80 offensive rushing yards. They had a rough day. Isaiah Correll, 18 carries, 133 yards with a touchdown, led the way for Cleveland's rushing. They had 145 on the day. Great job rushing the ball and passing. I mean, they were well divided. They had their rhythm and their groove for that whole first quarter, man. But that's why it's a 4-quarter game. Dennis Pitta led the way for Baltimore receiving wise, 9 receptions, 102 yards. Mike Wallace, 4 receptions, 41 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Corey Coleman led the way for Cleveland with 5 receptions, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Absolutely crushed it. Duke Johnson with 4 receptions and 44 yards. And then Cleveland with Three individual people fumbled. Didn't lose them though, so that didn't really hurt them a whole lot. Josh McCown with the fumble, Traymon Williams and George Atkinson the third. I probably botched his last name. Going into the defense though, Zachary Orr led the way for Baltimore, 7 solo tackles. Behind him, Ladardius Webb and Eric Weddle with 5 solo tackles. Weddle with a pass defense. Timmy Jernigan, that's probably a better way. Had himself a pretty good game. 4 solo tackles, 1 sack, 3 QB hits. The team overall had 8 QB hits, 2 pass defenses, and 3 sacks on the day. As for Cleveland's defense, Demario Davis, 4 solo tackles and a QB hit. Traymon Williams, Christian Kirksey, Derek Kindred, all with 5 solo tackles. Kirksey also had a QB hit. The team overall combined for 5 QB hits, 7 pass defenses. Joe Hayden had himself a phenomenal game defensively at corner with 4 pass defenses, 3 solo tackles. I mean, you heard his name being called like it felt like every other play at one point. The team overall, no sacks, so they weren't really able to put a whole lot of pressure on Joe Flacco late in that game. I mean, they were really getting into their rhythm in that second half. Cleveland, when we talk about third down conversions, Baltimore was 10 for 16, Cleveland was 8 for 15, so they were about 50%. So it was like hit or miss. Early in the game, I mean, God, they were lighting it up, and then near the end, I mean, they were punting every other drive. They weren't able to do anything. They weren't able to put any points on the board, man. That's what it comes down to. So, penalties really didn't play a huge factor into this game. Just pointing that one out. It was more of just a team breakdown, you know. There were some penalties that a couple friends of mine who are Cleveland fans were pointing out. For the life of me, I can't remember them off the top of my head. Just because I've watched a couple other games since this one. I probably should have I was recording these like after I would watch them. But then I was able to knock out like 3 games while I was in class. So I didn't really have the time to record them in the middle of class, you know, when I was trying to knock out watching some of these games. So I will point out that. And shout out to Joe Hayden for the 2 interceptions. Good stuff there. And then Eric Weddle and CJ Mosley also had interceptions for Baltimore. I forgot to point that out. But I'm going to get going. I got a couple more of these to record, so I'm going to talk to you guys on the next video. Until then, you guys have a good one.